Well, that's an easy thing to do. If you leave suddenly, it's because you start lagging. Guys, if I could, I want to introduce our new Deputy County Administrator, Josh Gillespie.
No pressure. No pressure that the signal drops or anything like that.
Just fine.
I don't doubt it.
I'm Chase, nice to meet you.
Hey,
You're going to get to know these guys real well.
Thanks for having me.
They're going to get to know you. So Josh lives in Goochburg. He is Louisa County Clerk.
Test, what they call those tests for the little colors.
Been in Chesterfield and on community development. Got a start in preservation.
Hey, I just washed my hands with stuff.
Great background.
How you doing? Yeah.
Archer.
I've never been in here before. I've never been in
He's
here.
around our meetings.
Westo had their HOA meeting here.
Kids from school in here.
They've got, actually, right down that way, they got the big
You
theater.
do planning commission.
Oh, wow. I was going to say I had a different perception of this massive church. And thinking, this is a little smaller than what I had in mind. Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't interrupt y'all, but this.
You doing well?
I think so. Good.
Yes.
So what?
If you've heard differently,
Done it.
tell me, because ignorance is little.
Well, I sent you the recap on the community.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's what's jumping over there. He was on
There's not a lot of wasteful. We're doing a lot of great on the cycle, so that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. And then
We're going to get started in a few minutes. If you need it, if you guys would like a seat, please come in and filter out. There's plenty of seats in the middle here. A couple of housekeeping things as we're getting going. There are bathrooms down the hall. When you're right down the hall, we will be doing an online survey as part of this. The guest Wi-Fi information on this flip chart over here. We also have paper copies of that survey as well that we can send out as well. But again, we're going to get going in a few minutes, but please come in, filter in, and grab a seat if you'd like.
It's just like the like.
Buy you whatever you want. Fortunately, they're around the place. So you have to find out which branch or something. It's like the branches. There's a New York branch. Use areas to do a lot of things. So it's the border goes.
No, it's the same thing.
Well, it's true.
You look so professional. Kind of like just a big time.
Hand out some judgments.
There's a younger guy.
I think guilty.
Sounds like Uji.
They'll work on it, so my family Michigan. They were like Michigan, very enlightened families that invested in started. Yeah, I mean, read up people's what are so they will? Remember what tricks it was? They didn't drop a boat. They maybe was. They dropped a fair amount of leaves with some low water. And that's not what we're trying to do. We tried to bring up some live ones.
We've got two planted in the parkway over here. He's got 4 or 5. Yeah, I mean,
They're slow.
All right, everybody. Anybody wants some seats? There's still some seats up front and in the middle. My name is Tom Coleman. I'm with Gucci County. I'd like to welcome you to our meeting this evening. Before we turn it over to Timmons, who is doing the study, a couple housekeeping items. We do have our password up here. There is a survey that's going to be conducted towards the end. It may help if you're hooked up to Hope Church's Wi-Fi. We do have a sign-up sheet in the back. If you did not get a notice of this meeting, we pushed out several emails, but if you sign up and leave your email address, we'll make sure that you're added to the list to get any future updates. A couple of introductions. We do have Mr. Fowler, Mr. Lau here, Board of Supervisors. District 4, Mr. Fathers. District 3, Mr. Winfrey. Covering that from Mr. Tuck here from the Planning Commission. I don't know if I caught everyone.
You want to know about who? Jessica McLaughlin.
Yeah, okay. Welcome, Josh. Before we turn it over to Timmons, I do want to sort of talk about why we're here and why we're here now. In 2018, the county conducted a countywide major thoroughfare plan. And through that process, it was a countywide plan. And through that process, this was an area of the county where we could not reach a consensus with whether it was property owners, the consultant, staff. We could not create a consensus or come to a consensus on what the road network should look like. So we literally drew a circle around the area on the map and said we would come back to that at a later date. And we periodically reminded the board we would come back to that at a later date. Following that, we went through 2 village plans. One was in the courthouse, one in Centerville. The courthouse plan came to a successful conclusion. With the Centerville plan, we were not able to come to a successful conclusion on that. But there were a couple of lessons learned that we took into account when we created this study. And part of what came from the community is, and in considering the future of Centerville, we had not looked at, and we were looking at changing the land use plan, we had not looked at the roads, and fire rescue, and what was the capacity to undertake those changes, to consider those changes. So keeping in mind that we committed to the board to come back to this area, when we started to develop the scope for this project, we decided we would turn it into an infrastructure study. And this infrastructure study is really looking at the fire rescue, schools, water, sewer, the roads, and we want to create a foundation to do some future planning. But this is a study, it's not a plan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Timmons.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. My name is Steve Schmidt. I'm with Timmons Group, part of the consulting team that's working on this study for the county. Now I'm going to give you an agenda for tonight. We're going to introduce our study team. We're going to go over the purpose and approach to this study. We're going to talk a little bit about the existing conditions review, where we're at today. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to go into the survey and the schedule, and we'll get into some questions and answers later on in this. So our study team structure, Timmons Group is leading the study. We have our partner 3TP, who is helping us as well with this study, along with the county. We do have a robust group of county officials and staff working on this. We have a technical committee, which is our consultant team and the county staff. We meet every other week to talk about the study, talk about how things are going, where we're going next. We also have a steering committee that we meet with monthly. And again, that is the county staff and the consultant team, the county administrator, 2 members of the board of supervisors, and 2 planning commissioners. And we meet monthly again to talk about the study, how it's going, what the next steps are, that sort of thing. And we've representatives from Timmons, 3TP, and the county is here tonight, as Tom mentioned. So just a bit about what part of the county we're talking about. This is, again, the Southeastern Infrastructure Study. So we are looking at the southeastern corner of Houston County, that area that is in that green circle here. Generally speaking, it's bounded up to the north by Tuckahoe Creek Parkway, to the south by James River, east is the county line, and then to the west is Hockett Road. Again, generally speaking, there are some ebbs and flows throughout there. And then the inset you see on the left is the portion of how big the rest of Houston County is and where we are located scale-wise and area-wise. So again, it's an infrastructure study. So what are we looking at tonight? What are we looking at with this study? Well, we're going to look at the roadways. What is the existing capacity of the roadways? What is the future needs of the roadways? We're going to look at crash history, that sort of thing. We're going to look at water and sewer. Again, existing capacity, future capacity, things like that. Schools, fire and rescue. Again, same idea. There are other elements of infrastructure that will not be addressed in this study. We're not really looking at parks or greenways or trails. We're not looking at energy, electric or gas. We're also not looking at telecommunications. So again, our study is focused on those 4 core infrastructure pieces that we identified above. So what is this study all about? What is the purpose? What are we doing with this study? So the goal is to provide an empirical, data-driven foundation to guide the Board of Supervisors and the county staff when considering future land use and infrastructure decisions. Here in the middle of the study is not. That is the primary goal of this, is to look at the data, to look at the empirical analysis of those infrastructure components so that we can provide the county staff, the county planning commissioners, and the board that data as they make these future decisions on land uses and infrastructure. So the study what will it do? Well, step one is we're going to establish performance and metrics, grades or levels of service, or what are we going to, what is that metric that we're looking at for those existing infrastructure conditions? And when we look at those, we're going to get that baseline existing infrastructure metric. In the future, we need to hold to that existing level of service. We will then look at future conditions. We'll analyze what happens if this area of the county grows as called for in the comprehensive plan. What infrastructure needs will a comprehensive plan growth entail? What new roads, water, sewer, schools, fire rescue, those sort of things. We are also then going to consider some alternative land use options in the future, and what would those impacts be? If this area of the county grows differently than the comprehensive plan calls for, does that create different needs for infrastructure? Does that create different sets of opportunities and challenges to look at? And that study will help the county in its goal of planning to preserve its rural areas. Right? That is the overall goal. The study is not a land use plan. It is not a small area plan. We will not be promoting for higher density. The result of this study will not come out and say this area needs to develop more densely than the comprehensive plan calls for. That's just not part of this. It will not change the zoning of the parcels in the study area. Again, we are looking at the infrastructure. What are those needs? What are those both now and into the future? So this area of the county is part of the designated growth area. Houston County has designated the area in the red. You can see the red line going out as the area that they want to see some growth. Houston County as a whole, just to get a scale factor here, is approximately 185,000 acres. The designated growth area is 21,000 acres, or 11% of the county. So of that designated growth area, we're looking at about 3,300 acres. The area in that circle is generally about that. So it's less than 2% of the total county land area, but it is about 15% of the designated growth area. Again, that area of the county that has been called for growth. So what you see here in blue is some of the parcels that have been identified to look at. Much of the study area is designated for growth in the comprehensive plan. Some of the areas they're currently not developed at levels envisioned in that comprehensive plan, but they are a very vital and important part of the county's future and must be developed appropriately. So let's, again, take a look at the existing conditions, the existing area that we're looking at today. What you see here is the zoning map. What is allowable today on these parcels? You see a lot of green, which is limited agricultural. There's some general residential, some neighborhood residential, a little bit of office, limited industrial in the purple, and then some general business as well. So again, this is how these parcels could be developed today without any rezoning, without any action by the Board of Supervisors. This is the existing zoning of the area. But again, this is part of the designated growth areas. The county's 2035 comprehensive plan calls for a different set of uses out here. You see some prime economic development, which is that area shown in gray. There's office, no retail, which is that kind of teal color. There's some single family, both low density, medium density. There's some flexible residential, some public space, and some open space as well. Excuse me. So again, this will be one of our scenarios we analyze in the study is, should these parcels develop as called for in the comprehensive plan, what infrastructure will be needed in this area? So we know there's some other things going on. There's some environmental concerns, there's some constraints out there. We know, you can see the light blue, there's some water, there's some FEMA floodways and 100-year floods, there's wetlands. Not all of this land can be developed, even if it's shown that way in the comprehensive plan, right? There's some existing constraints on this. There's also some conservation easements. You see the dark green at the bottom, and some of the, again, teal color through there. There's some pieces of land that have been already put into a conservation easement that cannot be developed. So again, no matter what the comprehensive plan calls for, the map, these areas can't be developed that way. All right, so let's get into the pieces of the infrastructure, the different components. The roadways, right? This area is generally bounded, 288 runs north-south, Patterson Avenue runs east-west. We've got some other roads in there as well. What you see here is a look at the existing daily traffic. That dark purple that is 288 north, well, that's carrying between 20,000 and 50,000 vehicles a day. You can see that east-west on Patterson Avenue, and to the west of 288, it's carrying between 5,000 and 10,000 vehicles a day. To the east, it's carrying 10 to 15. And all of the other roadways in and around there as well. So what we do with this information is we take it and look, are these roadways appropriately sized for the existing traffic that's out there? Do they need improvements today, or can they handle the volumes that are out there? It looks at the overall roadway capacity. This is not a look at the intersections. We know that there are some intersections that might need to be looked at. That'll be the next slide. This is the overall kind of roadway capacity. We've also taken a look at the crash issue. What you see here is what we call a heat map, where you see the darker yellow colors are where more crashes occur. And so we use this as a vital tool to say what intersections need to be looked at from a safety component. I will say that Route 288, we removed the crashes from that only because that's part of a different study that VDOT is looking at as well, and so we're not looking at the crashes along there. But immediately what jumps out is Route 6 and River Road, right? You guys have driven it, you know that is a tough intersection with the grade, with the angle. And you know what? Absolutely, there's a bunch of crashes there. That is something that needs to be looked at in this study. Route 6 and West Street Parkway is another one of the kind of hot spots. And then Route 6 and Blair Road, which is further to the east, was a hot spot. But I'll note that a lot of these crashes occurred before the traffic signal was put in. So we've looked at the last 5 years of crashes with available data. So we don't have quite enough yet to see how is that signal improving that intersection. But I would be willing to bet that the next set of data that we look at, that intersection there are less crashes occurring there. One of the other components of this study is the fire and rescue. So what you see here are the 1, 3, and 5 mile response distances from the fire stations. The blue is the existing fire station out there on Mannequin. And the red, and the red is the one on top, the Clan Hockett Road fire station that is being designed right now. So as the colors get lighter, you're getting further away from the response distance. And so one of the things we can notice right away is there's some areas of this study area that response distance is pretty long. It might be close as the bird flies, right? But the roadways aren't there to get a fire or a rescue vehicle there quickly. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as part of this study as well. This is a map of the existing water and sewer available. The blue line, the thick blue lines, are the existing water lines. There are a couple lighter colored blue, which are private lines, but the darker blue ones are public lines. This is where public water can get to today. And the flip of that is the green is the sewer, existing public sewer. And again, it's mostly all green. There's a few little pieces of yellow, which are private sewer lines. So those are the existing conditions that were there today, right? Again, what's out there today, we're evaluating those, we're putting the performance and metrics with those to know, are there existing conditions that need to be improved? Do we have existing extra capacity? What does it look like today? But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Callahan. I'm with a company called 3TP. We're working with the Timmons Group. We're a community planning firm. We work entirely with local governments, almost entirely in the state of Virginia. And so we're supporting engagement. So tonight's meeting, for example, and also some of the analysis work, kind of planning analysis that's going on as part of the study. So thank you for having me. In leading the engagement, one of the things we heard was the importance of transparency and really getting a lot of input from everybody. And so I'm going to use a tool tonight called Mentimeter. And what I'm hoping to learn is what matters to you all, what's important to you all, because it's a really important part of this study. And so in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to pull out your phone. and we're actually going to participate in a survey where the things that you share will pop up on the screen in real time, and we can see the input that you're providing in real time. If you have any trouble accessing the Mentimeter, or you don't have a phone, we have some paper copies we can hand out. But it's preferable to use the phone and to participate in the real kind of live survey, because again, you can kind of see the results popping in. So, off we go. So this is the instruction slide. So if you've ever used a QR code, you can use the camera on your phone, and a little yellow, orangish box will pop up, and you can tap on the website, and it'll take you to the survey. You can also use, if you have a web browser, you can type in menti.com, menti.com, and you enter the code, which is 86636924. I see 11 thumbs up. 11 people are in. That's good. Good sign. Again, if anyone has any difficulty, please just raise your hand. We do have a few folks here who can come around and kind of help you. There's one person back here. Looks like needs assistance. I see people still joining, so I'll just give it another second here. Again, you can go to menti.com and enter 86636924. Or you can use your camera to pull up the QR code. I see a few people still doing it, so we'll give you another second. Pardon me? Oh yeah, if you need to access the internet, the network is hope-guest-Wi-Fi, and the password is welcome to hope. Capital W, capital H. It's right up here on the sheet. All right. And you can join at any time, menti.com with the code. Does anybody else need help before I go forward?
This is a big problem.
Either the QR code or you enter the...
So once I advance, you can still join as we're going. So if you're just a little slow.
Yeah.
All right, so first questions I have, you should see it advancing on your screen. The first questions I have are about your experience in the study area. And so, how frequently do you spend time in this area, around 288 and 6th study area? Every day, weekly, monthly, rarely, or never?
I gotta get on the...
And so you hit your, pardon me? It's up at the top there, 8663-6924. All right, so once you enter your response, down at the bottom, you hit submit. Yeah. Yeah.
All my time at Gooch.
So at the bottom, you should see submit. Press that once you have your answer. All right. How do you experience the study area? Do you live there, work there, recreate, travel through, or own property there? These are very basic questions. Just trying to get a sense of who is here tonight. Also, we don't collect any identifying information. This is all anonymous. We just get the responses. And you can select more than one response. All right. So the next questions are kind of general opinions. Like I said, we really want to get a sense of what matters to you. So we're going to ask some general county-wide questions, attitudes, opinions about growth, development, conservation, all of this, but at a county-wide scale. And then we'll ask questions about the specific study area. So, this is an open-ended question, so you just enter your response with words, and you can enter like 3 different words or phrases and hit submit. But it's what is one thing about Goochland County that you hope never changes? This is for the whole county, county-wide. And so rural is the first thing in. As people say the same thing, those words will be bigger. They'll create a little word cloud here. The colors aren't the easiest to see on the screen here, but a strong theme of rural character, limited growth, small town. So I'll give you a couple more minutes. The more you reply, the smaller the words get. Sorry about that. It's getting hard to read here. So rural and rural character are definitely rising to the top because those are the bigger words. All right. When we get 35 responses, I'm going to advance because that seems to be about where we top out. This one is a scale question. So you basically slide the little scale bar from not important to very important. And the question is, how important are the following? Preservation of rural areas, economic development, high-quality schools, high-quality county services such as fire and rescue, affordable/workforce housing, and active recreation facilities. There is going to be an opportunity towards the end to kind of give open-ended thoughts as well, but these are some preloaded options. And make sure you scroll down all the way this time to hit submit. It's down below where you can see. All right, we're at 36 responses, and number 1 is high quality services, and number 2, preservation of rural areas, and high quality schools. This question is about funding of infrastructure improvements. It's an infrastructure study in part here. So who should fund infrastructure improvements, such as those things Steve was describing? You can select all that apply: developers, taxpayers, user fees, grants, or other. And by the way, we are collecting all this and we'll report it in the study. So we're not just doing this for fun. We're actually benefiting from it and using it, and we'll document it, and we'll probably have it available on the website as well, so everybody can take a look. All right, topping out at 38, developers and second place taxpayers. This question is something that has been discussed recently about kind of the split between, for local tax revenues, how much comes from residential versus commercial. And that ratio is something that gets discussed in all counties. But here, it's about 80% from residential land uses and 20% from commercial. And so the question is, how important is increasing the commercial share? All right, moving on to 3 last questions. These are about measures of development. So one of the things that we're supporting Timmins is understanding if the area grows and develops in certain ways, what would be the impacts of that? both good and not good. Because the impact can be either, a pro or a con. And so we want to get a sense from you all of how important different measures are so that we can be thinking about that as we do our work. And we'll also have an opportunity to provide additional ideas that we may not have captured. But this is the trickiest one. It's going to be a test. This is one where I'm asking you to rank the responses from kind of order of importance, from most important to least. And so there's many ways this study can measure impacts of development in the study area. Again, we're not talking countywide now, just the 288.6 kind of area. And I'm asking you to sort these by order of importance. And so you can tap on them in the order that you think they're important, and they'll kind of move to the top of the screen, and then you can also shift them up and down if you change your mind. But be sure you hit submit after you get them in the order that you think they're important. We'll give this one a couple more minutes because I see 22 people have responded. We've been around 35 to 40 on the prior questions. And I will say, we're not using these data to say something isn't important. It's more what rises to the top. What is the most important thing we should be putting our time towards?
And Stephen, when you're answering these things, are you, if you put it in order of importance, it's a negative or is it?
Not necessarily. It's just important to you that we be looking at this. It could be a positive. It could be not a positive in your mind. But there's so many things we could look at, right? And so we're trying to get a sense of what's really most important to you.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Where will the results of this Q&A be available on the web?
Yeah, I was just telling Steve, I think we just post it on the website ASAP. We'll, get it up soon after the meeting. Not tonight, but soon. Yeah. Okay. Commercial tax revenue, acres developed, housing units, jobs, top 4 there. And we have 2 final open-ended questions, and then the survey will be closed. This is what other measures of the impacts of new development should be considered? What should we be looking at? What's important to you that we should be looking at? Lesson learned for me, I need a darker background. Yellow does not show up there. Sorry about that. On my computer screen, it looked great. Not on the big screen. Quality of life, traffic, density, intensity, those are things that are the biggest, so repeated the most. Again, we'll post this on the website. And final question, what is the greatest infrastructure concern you have for the study area? And again, there's 3 little fields. You can put a phrase or a word in each and submit. All right, a couple more trickling in, but roads and traffic definitely standing out there, density as well. So I just want to say thank you. This is really helpful when we're starting a project like this. It's so important to listen and hear what's on your mind, and we work for the county to serve you all. So this is helpful to us, and there's going to be more opportunities for engagement tonight and as we go. But this is really helpful information. Again, we'll have it posted to the website. So with that said, I'm going to hand it back to Steve.
Well, thank you. That was.
Will we be able to ask questions at the end, or should we ask?
Yep, we're gonna get to that just in a minute. I promise. I got like 1 or 2 slides left. We'll get to that. Thank you for your responses to that. As Mike said, we'll post those results. They will also become part of the final study. And we're gonna document all of this because we want to. We need to hear from you. So we appreciate you coming out tonight and being part of that survey.
Where are you going to post?
Yeah, we'll get to all.
Where?
We'll get to all that. I've got all that coming up. So what are our next steps? We've talked about what the study is, where we're going, what are we doing next? Well, we're going to analyze the existing comprehensive plan mix. Again, we talked about what infrastructure needs will rise up with. Will the existing infrastructure support it? Will the planned infrastructure that the county has support the comp plan growth? Or are there new things that we need to look at as well? From there, we're going to consider a couple of additional scenarios. We're going to look at, well, what if this area, this study area, develops more as an economic development area? Are the infrastructure needs the same? Are they different? What are those differences and that sort of thing? What about if it develops as a more of a residential or a mixed-use area? Again, is the infrastructure needs the same or different? That sort of thing. From there, we're going to go ahead and we'll come up with draft results and analysis. We're going to share that with our steering committee first. Again, the members of the county staff, planning commission, the board that we talked about earlier. And then we're going to come out and share it with you all again. We're going to have a second community meeting where we'll share those results of all of those analysis scenarios. And after that, we're going to move to a draft and then a final report, which we'll present to the board. And that will conclude our study again as this data-driven approach to give the county and the board information as they look to the future. This will be online as well as a little challenging to read up here. This is our overall schedule. Point of this morning, but right now, if you look from the top down, we're just kind of including phase 1 with what is our study and why, where are we going. We have our public meeting, which we're doing tonight. We've been meeting with our steering committee monthly. We've met with some of the stakeholders in the area as well. The blue circles are all of our stakeholder meetings, the smaller technical committee ones underneath are meetings that we've had with that group as well. We've gone through a lot of the data gathering, the reviewing of the previous study, the plans that are out there. From here, now we're going into that existing analysis and the future comprehensive plan, scenario A and B, and then we'll move towards those future scenarios as well. Big question, when is this study going to be wrapped up? We're looking at the end of the summer. This summer is a completion date for this, so we'll be looking to have a community meeting again before that to share our results with you all, and then eventually finalize that report and share it with the board. So a couple housekeeping things that we are going to ask, for questions here in a second, but for those that might need to leave early. More information. This is all up here. We also have postcards that are on either of these two side tables as you leave that you can get the website address, or just use the QR code to get to the website where the county is hosting all of this information. There you'll be able to find the date of the next community meeting when we set that, and the updates to the study. And again, if you've registered outside with your email, we'll be sure to email blast out everybody when those dates are coming. So, just before I open it up to questions, because I know there will be some, we have our team members here that are writing everything down. Right? We're not just going to answer questions here. We're going to write these down. We're going to evaluate them as we go forward. I would ask you to raise your hand. I will walk around with the microphone and hand it to you, ask your question, and then one of the team members will look to answer that question. And I will be kind of bouncing back and forth from side to side of the room. We'll get you, okay? So with that, who has a question they'd like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
This is a small representation of the county of the East End.
Would you mind using this so everyone else can hear you?
Yeah, it's a small representation of the people here in the county. Is there going to be an opportunity for people to participate in the survey?
So the question was, this is a small representation of the county just being in the eastern end. Will there be an opportunity for the other portions of the county to answer the survey and engage in this study? I'll say that we will, the second community meeting, we will try and get out to a broader audience. And again, it will be posted on the county website, the county calendar, and things like that. As far as the actual survey, I mean, we can put it online. We will put it online and allow people to engage with it there as well. So thank you for that question. Others?
So I have two questions. You said you have a draft and the final report will come at the end. Will that include recommendations?
It will include the results of the study and depending on the analysis scenario recommendations that if the comprehensive plan develops, it will be X, Y, and Z infrastructure. If it develops differently, there will be other things like that. So results, perhaps not recommendations.
And my second question has to do with something we've been dealing with in the county since I've lived here a short period of time, and that is, you say you're not recovering energy and telecom, and I assume that includes internet service. Why not? And that's a big miss. It's not.
Yeah, so that's so. Sure.
Hey, Vic Carpenter, the county administrator. We set this up for the study. The purpose of this study is to look at just the infrastructure in this part of the county. Now, electricity is a critical thing, and so we're looking to add electricity and also broadband component to it to make sure it's part of it. But so we are looking to try to make this inclusive we can. But again, the focus is just this area, just the utilities that are critical. Then in the roads, the bridges, the schools, fire and rescue, those aspects of it were primary importance, but we're now looking to add a second scope to it.
If I could add to that, we're focused on public infrastructure, like broadband and electricity are provided privately, so those would be a separate effort to look at those.
What brought us out here tonight was the financial aspect, fiscal priorities,
retire the Cove Creek Service District debt, the ad valorem affects us greatly. I didn't hear anything about the financial aspect and the burden that is. I did attend the town hall, actually several of them, where the county is touting a AAA bond rating, but it doesn't include the debt for the water infrastructure. That's a major omission. So I'd like to hear more about that.
This is within a designated growth area, and we're talking about things like the TCSD, for example. The paying off that debt is contingent, in part upon growth occurring within the areas covered by the TCSD. So this is sort of a fund, with the growth that occurs here, it's appropriate that it develops in a manner that supports paying off that debt. And while things like there's an interrelationship between things like the bond rating, the ability to pay off the debt, showing the appropriate growth to raise the tax base. Those are all interrelated pieces that get at your question about.
So the SIS will look at this, is that correct? Because I'm reading this off your website, off the county website. What the SIS will do.
The SIS study isn't looking at the financial aspects of TCSD. That would be a totally different part. This study is just looking at the infrastructure needs itself, the cost of it, for the roads, bridges. So they're not tasked with looking at the TCSD debt per se. The TCSD debt is something that is part of the inherent aspect of the TCSD is paying off that debt. As Tom said, one of the important things is making sure that we have growth that allows us to pay those debts as years go on. But no, they're not tasked with looking at the financial aspects of the debt itself.
It says bolster long-term fiscal priorities, and in parentheses, retire TCSD debt, maintain bond rating, for example.
Right. Long-term economic growth is critical for us to be able to pay off the debt. When we say retire the debt, that's when we pay the debt off. And so it's critical that we have that so we're able to make those payments. The debt scheduled to be paid off now by 2040. Ideally, at some point, we could look to pay it off sooner, but that's not what they're tasked with doing, is that aspect.
I was just wondering now, what are some of your assumptions to come to the conclusions on the infrastructure needs as far as full build out, what that looks like? Because the majority of the area is prime economic development area. It's all in the designated growth area. What are your assumptions on residential? Because a lot of the densities are listed in the comp plan, and also economic development aspect, where currently we're 80-20 residential, commercial, and comp plan is looking to target 70-30. And how are those assumptions going to go towards economic development, and what does full build out look like with economic development versus residential?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's actually some of the scenarios we are looking at directly. The first one being, if this land develops as the comprehensive plan calls for, within the prime economic development, within the residential densities called for in the comprehensive plan, how many houses, how much office, how much industrial can we put on these parcels based on what the comprehensive plan calls for. And then the second part of your question, we are going to look at what if it develops differently. And those are, we'll take some engineering, estimates of what the developable area is, the road infrastructure area, how much parking, how much whatever else. You need how much of this land can be developed. You can put X number of houses or X amount of square feet, that sort of thing. We'll document all of that as part of the study. But we are looking at those three things, right? Comprehensive plan. Is it more economic development based? Is it more mixed use or residential development in the future?
With all that in mind, it looks like the assumption or the exclusion of energy. There's no substation in the area. So that limits the economic development potential in the area. And it seems, it looks like it's going to doom the area to more residential, more apartments, et cetera, which is what we're seeing in District 5.
Yeah, so as you've heard a little bit, we're trying to focus on the things that the county can control, the infrastructure needs that are in front of us, the roads, the water, the sewer, the schools. We've recognized that energy, telecommunications, broadband are all part of this equation. They are mostly privately held or outside of the county control, and so it's a little bit of a challenge to evaluate those in a study that's for the county's benefit. I will say that we're going to look at those land uses not without energy, but also what is the development part of that land, and what can we control? What infrastructure needs do we need to provide to make that happen? Recognizing that there are other things that need to happen as well, perhaps like energy.
Do we have a stop time for this?
Yeah, you don't have to drive far to see how in the last 40 years Chesterfield was built up. In Micah, and you can see it in Hanover. Do you envision anything like that? Well, future.
Well, so I'll say that this study is focused on that designated growth area only. We want to plan to preserve the remainder of the county is outside of that study area. So we've been tasked with looking at a very specific subportion of that study area, but this is the area that the county has looked to for growth, to support the infrastructure and all the good things that you liked about the county that we saw in the survey. We are not looking to expand the study area. We're not looking to move that designated growth area line. We're looking to study that particular subset of the area to see help that portion of the county develop appropriately to support that area and the rest of the county as well. We will get there, I promise. I know I'm walking past people.
It seems like numbers can say just about anything. And I'm listening to all this and I'm wondering, what you're generating, are you trying to support the existing comprehensive plan? Or based on what you come up with, is the county going to adjust the comprehensive plan? I mean, is the glass half empty or half full, but it's still the same. It's just what you do with the numbers, I would think.
Sorry, I don't have perhaps the county come in as well. Our goal is not to support the comprehensive plan or support an alternative to the comprehensive plan. We want to just provide the county with an empirical, data-driven analysis of if a bunch of proposals come in to the comprehensive plan and development proposals, what do you need to do to support those? If those proposals come in differently, what do we need to do to support those? We're not trying to adjust the comprehensive plan or change it or call for a whole different set of uses. We just want to analyze and give the board and the county the data they need to plan this area appropriately for future growth. Did you want to add anything, Tom?
And just to add on to that, I mean, the thought comes to my mind is, have you ever seen a developer come forward and have a proposal that overburdens the roads? The roads can't handle it. Does a developer come forward with development and their consultants say it's going to overburden the school system can't handle it? Part of what we're trying to do is take a look at this area and have Timmons do an analysis that's not biased, or created by the developer, favorite developer, to create a foundation for some of the questions that are going to be coming in the future. So we're not going to be making a land use plan recommendation out of this, but we will understand what infrastructure capacity we have and how different types of areas could impact that. What the future decisions that come out of this, they may not be land use. It could be changes to the county CIP. There could be other county planning for this area, for their own infrastructure planning that will be informed by the information that comes out of the study. I live in the Purple area, and I have a question about the structure. From 288 to Patterson Avenue, in that little corridor that's on in the purple zone, there are no fire hydrants. The fire hydrants are on the eastern side of 288. They stop at 288. Is there a plan, so in your consideration, are they thinking of putting, water to those areas?
Appreciate the question. That's exactly one of the things that we're looking at on the existing land use, on the existing condition side of things. Where is water not, where should it be? Where, how do we support the existing residence development that is there today and moving towards the future? That's why we took an existing look at everything and not just immediately went to the future. Now, what comes of that, we will certainly report where it is and where it isn't, and where things like that might need to happen. But then that could then become perhaps a recommendation to do CIP to extend water there for fire, or something else that goes up to that end. Again, we're looking at providing the data to the county so that they can plan this area as a whole, right? It's not just one piece at a time, it's the whole area, how we plan it.
Just a point of clarification, the gentleman over here asked about Chesterfield and Short Pump and seeing how it all developed, and you responded. Well, we're going to focus on study area, and we're going to keep the rural outside of the study area. So as part of your consideration, are you envisioning, to Rob's point, a whole build-out could make everything up to Hockett Road, all the way up to the entire 3,000 acre study area? Could be extremely dense and look like Chesterfield over in Short Pump? And you would think that would be a success if we could keep everything outside of that the way it is? Because there's a rural element to this 3,000 acres and preservation, natural space, all kinds of wetlands. So as you think about the plan, it would be helpful to understand what degree of preservation you would have as part of your assumptions. We can optimize your economic opportunity, but at the same time, you don't want to completely have a full build-out, and all of a sudden you have to go beyond west of Pocket Road before you start to feel like you're neutral again.
Yeah, good question, Paul. The part of the theory is that if the designated growth area absorbs development, that relieves the development pressures in rural areas. So that's part of the idea of preserving rural areas. This isn't a designated growth area. It's been recommended as a designated growth area. If this is not going to make any land use recommendations, it's not going to recommend that the area remain more or less rural. We know that is a recurring theme, but the overarching theory is that if we develop this appropriately, that this will absorb the growth, and that will be one tool to help preserve the rural areas.
The key word part of that is appropriately. So as you think about this, is what does appropriately mean? And I think it means different things to different people. It would be helpful to define as part of the process what, doesn't have to be precise, but in general terms, what does appropriate development look like for Goochland?
Building on that concept, anyway, the land capability analysis, most general comprehensive plans are general, and I think Goochland falls into that model, if you will. Will there be an opportunity during this study to do a discrete land capability analysis? You've got to actually look at the land in its mix of attributes, what it can support, what it cannot support. As pointed out, there's considerable wetland in this portion of Goochland County. Happens to be inside the study area. I would hope and think and make an assumption that you all concur that there ought to be some attention given to land use capability. What does terra firma in the study area give us, and what do we do with it, and what do we have to do to manipulate it or change it to bring about certain things? That's my suggestion. have to do some land use capability analysis. Same time you're doing an analysis and study subjects, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely makes sense. Thank you for that. If you recall back, one of the slides I showed was the wetlands in the area, the conservation easements in the area. We know that those areas are included in the study area, included in those acres that we looked at, but it can't be developed. It's in a conservation easement, it's wet, it doesn't, whatever else I think it has part of it. So that will be part of the study. As far as the general sense, we're not going to go out and walk every parcel and look at anything like that. But from a general standpoint, yes, but those will be included.
How's this report going to feed into the county's transportation plan, and when is that expected to occur?
So again, the point of the study is to provide the county with the data as they look to those next steps. The results of the study will not be to recommend changing the thoroughfare plan, the transportation plan, but the study could be used the next time the county looks at that to say, well, now we understand that if this develops this way, we need this amount of roadway, or that way we need this amount. As far as the cycle on updating that, I don't know if there is a plan at this point, or there's no dates at this point to update that plan, but that's the point of this data, this study, is that the next time the development proposal comes in, and the next time we're looking at those sort of things, that the county has a solid base of empirical, data-driven analysis that they can then help make those decisions.
It just seems to me that you already have a comprehensive plan, and that if you were using that as your basis, you could figure out what you needed without going through all these steps. The comprehensive plan, I think, is supposed to be in effect until 2035, and so it was a very long-term plan. And I guess I don't see the need for all this extra stuff if you've got a plan in place.
That's a fair question. You're right, the comprehensive plan has a 2035 year on it. So that is the plan, the date of that plan. That's why that is one of our benchmarks for this study, is let's take a closer look at that plan and the CIP, the improvement plan the county has in place. Are those the right improvements for this area? Has anything changed since that was instituted to where maybe we can do a different set of improvements or things like that? We want to maximize the county's infrastructure and the cost of that, minimize the cost of that. And so that is why the comprehensive plan land use scenario is a portion of that. Now to the other side, there could be a development proposal that comes in that is different than the comprehensive plan, right? And then the county would have to evaluate that. So that's why we want to provide them the data, so that if and when that happens, they know, well, if we change this, we need this, or that sort of thing. We want, as Tom alluded to earlier, developers usually come in with a certain piece of property. They don't look at the whole study area. They don't look at the county as a whole, because that's not their responsibility. So can we take a look at this area as a whole to help the county plan for appropriate growth in this designated growth area that has been so vital to the future of the county? And how do we plan for that? If that makes sense.
Seems like you got a plan.
I know we're talking about the county as a whole, but can we narrow it down to Ashland Road and how you're looking at that? I mean, I saw the crash rate for Richmond Road and 288. I mean, Ashland's its own worst enemy, and it needs to be changed, even if Rocky's not coming, even if the land's there. So I know the project was still on the books, but how are we looking at that area, which is the most trafficked and quite frankly, very dangerous. So.
So we've been tasked by the county to look at this portion, this circle, this area of the county. Now, that doesn't mean those other areas, those other roads shouldn't be looked at, won't be looked at, won't be planned for. But this study doesn't consider anything outside of that study area, so.
I will mention yes to Ashford. Ashford is actually the focus of maybe one of our #1 capital infrastructure improvements, and that's divergent time and interchange. No pretense that will resolve all the issues as far as infrastructure goes. That area is very high.
What about the land for grant? I mean, is that being studied there, down the corridor?
No immediate plans to study, do a land use study of that area right now. Doesn't mean that couldn't change in the future.
I thought we were in that circle.
Most of us can't really see your photos and your labels. It's far enough away that we couldn't see a lot.
I couldn't see it.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. That's one of the reasons we want to make this. This will all be available on the county's website so you can take a closer look. It's very hard with an area this big and to show this much detail. We do have boards around that you can take a closer look at as well, but yeah, I understand.
Why wasn't the Hocket Route 6 interchange included in your study? That's kind of a scary place certain times of the day.
Why is the Hocket Route 6 included? Oh, yeah, my bad. So the intersection is included. It's generally right there. It's a little bit of a reddish color. And so there are crashes there. It is rising up. It just isn't as yellow as the other one. It will be part of the study. I think do intersection by intersection.
Part of our engagement, is there an overarching objective, for example, to optimize revenue potential, net revenue potential? So how can we optimize this economic growth area, but recognize there's all these costs, which reminds us. I think of it in terms of like a business sense in terms of return. If X amount is invested, but there's a whole bunch of costs that have to be considered, what's the net? Is this an attractive opportunity? And what needs to be tweaked to enhance it? So do you have part of your engagement a bias to optimizing revenue, minimizing expense?
People at home can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I can repeat the question, but basically, what is the part of your engagement? Is it to optimize a net investment opportunity that ties to this question about debt elimination or some other financial considerations? How do you see your charge, I guess, is the essential question.
Yeah, so that's perhaps a two-part answer. Every infrastructure improvement or result that comes out of this study will have a cost, a planning level cost assigned to it. If we say we need to extend the water line 1,000 feet, well, we're going to say it's going to cost X amount of dollars. So there will be those costs as part of the study. As far as the other side, is what is the economic development potential of the land and what is the cost benefit there? That's outside the scope of the study. We want to look at the different opportunities, the different land use futures to help provide that information to the county. That gets that kind of goes beyond the scope of our study from that side of things.
If I understand what the deliverable is for this study, it is basically to determine what the impacts and the needs will be based on Assumption X. Assumption X is the comprehensive plan. And if you deviate from the comprehensive plan, these are your options and the impacts increase positive in this aspect, negative in these others. Is that what the deliverable is for this?
Yes, absolutely, when it comes to infrastructure.
Then in my opinion, I think this study is excellent.
able to hear the question.
This is exactly what this county needs, not just in this area. If this process had been used in a small area in the center,
But if they hold close.
results would have been much different. That's all some of the citizens are asking for. What was full built out with the projected small area? What were the positives and what were the negative impacts? If this process had been used in that case, I think we would have had a different outcome and a successful small area plan once everyone involved understood what the positives were and what the true negatives were. And it was the total impacts of full build out currently with the comprehensive plan and projected under the small area plan. Those are the unknowns and we never got answers. So I believe this process is great for the county and it should be repeated often.
Again, when asking questions, please put the mic up to your mouth because people at home and from the table will be able to hear the questions if you want.
I agree with Rob in that this has a lot of value. However, having the information and acting appropriately, and this is directed more towards the county, when a developer comes and says, I want to dump X million dollars into the county, everything goes out the window. The case in point is Project Rocky, which thank goodness is not going to be our neighbor. But they came in and they said, oh, we're going to put 1,000 or 1,800 and some odd tractor trailers per day up and down Ashland Road. And the county board said, that's great, it'll handle it. And standing up looking at the traffic analysis saying it's an F. And all sense went out the door. They just wanted that because they wanted the money, they needed the money. And even if they'd had this information, and if a developer comes in and says, I want to do this, and your data says it's going to adversely impact us, out the door. The developer will say, that doesn't matter. And the county board, all their wisdom, will say, do it. And so you can have the information, but if you don't use it appropriately, I think it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money.
Thank you for the comment. Others?
Yeah, I'd just like to know if all this is, the studies are done, build out's done, we put all the people in the end of Goochland on, what's Goochland County doing to help the farmer to keep his farm from getting eaten up by the developer? That's what I'd like to know, because right now, when the farmer gets old, they have no choice to sell to the developer to get the money they need to help their family out. There's nothing that's being done as far as I can see that helps that farmer's child continue farming. The preserving of rural land, there has to be something to help the farmer not be enticed to give to the developer who's going to make a boatload of money.
My name is Jonathan Lott, and some of you may remember me. I ran and was elected as a conservation director for the county 3 times. I commonly call it the West Sad office, because everybody guesses what says West Sad. But I still got it. And what we're doing, quite frankly, is when we have land use capture, which values land at what its agricultural value is, not its development value. So right now, that's about $600 an acre versus building like $30,000 an acre. Conservation easements are another option, where a farmer who really wants to preserve his or her land, put it into an easement, their tax credits available, so there is a pecuniary benefit to them putting it into a conservation easement. that protects that land in perpetuity. And you saw, I'm going to put a map not up there, so excuse me. But there are properties already in conservation easement. I'm a property rights person, and so if somebody wants to do that with their land, that's their call. But for those farmers, those producers who want their land, they want their land to stay in agriculture, there are options to them. But that does come down to them as an individual choice. So there are options out there. They are driven by the individual. But I'm a huge proponent of conservation easements. I spent 12 years trying to keep roots in the rural, and we'll continue to do that. So there are options out there. Maybe shameless, we don't promote them as robustly as we could.
Comment, we've had a study done already, and I can tell you what the county's going to say in that study. That study's going to say we want to keep Goochland rural. And I just hope that the new study will be heard by you, and you listen to the county. The reason we didn't come up with a consensus before was because the previous consultants didn't listen, and I just hope you will listen to the people of Goochland County. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Okay. Well, again, we can't thank you enough for coming out tonight, because we do want to listen, we do want to hear from you. We've written everything down that you've asked. We appreciate this dialogue, we appreciate this back and forth. Again, there's cards on the table that have the address to the website where we're going to post all this. There's an opportunity to comment there as well. We want to keep hearing from you on this. We will be back to present, recommendations and results in a few months as well. So, thank you so much. And have a good night and drive home safe.